My name is David Marsh. I'm a software engineer, 39 years old. My wife Renee and I had been married 11 years. On paper, nothing was wrong. That's usually when something already is. It started with a sign. I came home from work on a Tuesday and there was a real estate board on our front lawn. Coming soon, it said, with a photo of our house underneath it. I asked Renee about it. She laughed it off, said the agent must have put it up by mistake. Wrong address probably. She'd get it taken down. I believed her. I had no reason not to. That night, our neighbor Frank caught me in the driveway. He mentioned, casually, that people had been touring our house for the last 3 weeks, always on Wednesday afternoons, always while my car was gone. I told him he must be confusing us with another house. He said he wasn't. He'd seen the same silver sedan parked out front 3 separate times, and once a couple walking the yard with a clipboard, measuring the fence line like they already owned it. I didn't argue with Renee that night. I went up to the office instead and pulled the history on our smart lock. Every Wednesday for the past month, between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, the front door had opened and closed multiple times. Different unlock codes I hadn't set up. I sat there scrolling through weeks of entries, feeling the floor of my own house shift slightly under me. I asked Renee about it the next morning, keeping my voice level. She said they were interior designers coming to look at paint and staging options for a possible renovation. I asked why designers needed to walk through the house 4 times in one afternoon. She changed the subject, brought up something about her sister's birthday instead, and I let it go for the moment. A few days later, I went up to the attic looking for a toolbox. The old photo albums were gone. So was my mother's wedding ring, which we kept in a lockbox up there since her passing, and my father's watch, sitting beside it for 6 years. I asked Renee. She said she'd moved everything into storage for safekeeping during the renovation. She didn't have an address for the storage unit ready when I asked. She said she'd find the paperwork later. She never did. That was the moment I stopped asking her questions out loud and started asking them quietly, on my own. I checked our bank statements first. There was a new joint account, opened 11 weeks earlier, one I'd never signed for. According to the transaction history, it was set up to receive an advance deposit, the kind of deposit a buyer puts down before closing on a house. I read the account number 3 times, checked it against our real joint account, and confirmed it wasn't a clerical error. It was a separate account entirely, built to look like it belonged to both of us. I called the real estate agent listed on that "coming soon" sign, introduced myself as the homeowner, and asked what stage the sale was at. He pulled up the file while I was still on the phone and read off a digital signature dated 3 weeks earlier. Mine. I had never signed anything. He didn't catch the tension in my voice. He just kept talking about closing timelines like the deal was already moving forward without me. Underneath that shock was another one, worse in a different way. While digging through Renee's laptop for anything related to the sale, I found lease documents for a condo in another city signed 6 months prior, under her name only. Her phone records, which I pulled from our shared family plan account, showed daily calls to the same number, sometimes lasting over an hour, going back that same 6 months. I printed the call log and laid it next to the lease agreement on the kitchen table, just to see the 2 pieces of paper side by side. I assumed, like most people would, that this was an affair. A second apartment, daily calls to one man, secrecy about money. It fit the shape of betrayal I already knew from every story I'd ever heard. I spent 2 nights convinced I already understood the whole thing. The truth turned out to be a different kind of betrayal. The man on the other end of those calls was a property developer on the edge of bankruptcy, someone who'd been selling Renee a vision of fast money through a real estate flip scheme that required cash she didn't have, cash she planned to get by selling our house without my knowledge, using the forged signature and the new joint account to funnel the advance straight to him, and, presumably, back to her once his project turned a profit that, on paper, never actually existed. It got worse before it got clearer. My accountant called me about an unrelated tax matter and mentioned almost in passing that someone had attempted to file an amended return for me the previous month, changes I hadn't authorized. Around the same time, my company's HR department flagged an inquiry into my vested stock options, someone trying to use those shares as collateral on a private loan application. The signature on that application matched the one on the house sale. Whoever had done this hadn't stopped at the house. They'd gone after everything with my name attached to it. Then the police showed up at our door on a Saturday morning. The buyer of our house, the one who'd wired the advance deposit, had asked for it back after a routine title check flagged inconsistencies in the paperwork. What should have been a quiet civil dispute turned into a fraud investigation once the forged signature was confirmed by a document examiner. The court hearing happened 2 months later. Renee wasn't the only one at that table. Her younger brother, Marcus, had helped set up the phantom joint account, using his own employer's notary stamp to make early paperwork look legitimate. The real estate agent had backdated paperwork to make the listing look older than it was, so buyers would believe the sale had already cleared standard review. And a notary, a family friend for over a decade, had certified my forged signature without ever seeing me in person. Trusting Renee's word over basic procedure, none of them knew something important. 6 months before any of this reached a courtroom, a strange feeling about paperwork left carelessly on the kitchen counter had made me quietly file a fraud alert on our property title with the county recorder's office. That single filing meant every document tied to the sale threw a flag the moment it entered any official system. Long before Renee or her brother realized the scheme had already been compromised from the inside, they kept building on a foundation that had cracked before they'd even started. In court, everything came out at once: the forged signature, confirmed by an independent examiner, the email trail between Renee and the developer, laying out how the advance money would be split once the deal closed, the bank transfers into the new joint account, time-stamped and traceable, the phone records showing near daily contact for half a year. Piece by piece, the story assembled itself in front of a judge who didn't need me to say a single dramatic word. I just sat there and let the paper trail do what I'd built it to do. The sale was voided. Renee's real estate license, which she'd earned years earlier as a side credential for exactly this kind of house-flipping ambition, was revoked. Her brother and the agent were both charged with fraud alongside her. The notary lost his certification and faced his own separate proceeding, and swore in his statement that he'd trusted Renee because he'd known her since she was a teenager. A few months after the case closed, I sold the house myself. Not through forged paperwork, not through a hidden buyer, but through my own listing, my own signature, my own decision, walking into the closing appointment with nobody standing behind me pulling strings. I used that money to buy a smaller place 2 towns over, somewhere quiet, somewhere with no Wednesday afternoon visitors and no boards on the lawn I hadn't approved. My mother's ring and my father's watch turned up eventually, sitting in a storage unit 2 counties away, exactly where the paper trail from the sale documents said they'd be. I drove out myself to collect them. I didn't tell Renee I'd found them. There didn't seem to be a reason to anymore. She thought she was selling my house out from under me. What she didn't understand, until a judge spelled it out for her in open court, was that she'd already sold her own future first, her license, her brother's freedom, and any version of trust that might have let us start over. If this story pulled you in, let me know in the comments. Would you have suspected an affair too, or did you see the real motive coming before the reveal? Hit like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.